Hello and welcome to Sustainability Matters. I'm Agatha Afemike, your host. On this show, we delve into latest developments and innovative solutions in sustainability. Each episode will bring you expert insights, impactful stories, and practical tips to help you make a difference. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Sustainability Matters. As always, I am your host, Agatha Afemike. Today, we have a very, very important guest with us, Isaac Oladipupo. I hope I got that right.
Absolutely.
Isaac will be speaking to us on funding and investment in the education sector. We'll also be getting into the Edtech solution he's building with Afrilearn. Isaac, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, Agatha. Thanks for having me on your amazing show. It's great to be here.
So Isaac is the CEO and co-founder of Afrilearn, which is one of Africa's growing gamified learning app that caters to K-12 learners. Isaac, I just wanted to get into what's going on in your head, especially around the theme funding and investment in the education sector. Just to get us started, how did you get into founding Afrilearn? What was the idea behind it?
That's $1 million question. Thank you very much again. It's a pleasure to be here. Founding Afrilearn, I think for me, it really started with a personal story and that of my co-founder as well. I should probably even start by saying that we both grew up in the same neighborhood and growing up in a place called Alagbado in Lagos. So while growing up, I saw firsthand how limited access to quality education affected my friends and even the community at large. For instance, I grew up in quite an affluent family. I grew up seeing my father, my parents generally actually, driving 4 brand new cars. My dad was then one of the senior executives at a company called Nigerian. I think in those days, they used to be like the Dangote of those days, right? And suddenly got acquired and it got retrenched. And all of a sudden, family that used to have 4 cars, we sold our cars one after the other. It was almost like my dad gave up on his career, and then my mom had to step up at the game. She saw us through school. Of course, my dad was still there, very supportive. But in terms of financially, it was really my mom that took the reins. And that episode actually did something to me, So while my parents sacrificed to send me to school, myself and my elder brother, like that, most of my childhood friends, even though they wanted to attend school, they just couldn't afford that privilege. And for that singular reason, they were left behind. That experience ignited a deep passion in me to create a solution that makes quality education accessible to all African children, regardless of their social status, their socioeconomic status, or their background or their parents' circumstances. Right? I think that every child deserves the access to quality education, irrespective of who their parent is. Right? So Afrilearn, of course, at the right time, was our response, to address the educational challenges in Africa by providing a comprehensive resources that are effective and engaging. So a comprehensive, engaging, and accessible learning platform. Which is why we offer curriculum-based class notes. Afrilearn has the most comprehensive, most curriculum-relevant library of class notes in Africa right now. So we offer curriculum-based class notes, animated video lessons, instant homework help, and of course, gamified exam practice for all the national exams, WAEC, JAMB, NECO, and whatnot. And then these resources are available at any time, anywhere, helping to bridge the gap between those who have access to quality education and those who do not. So by leveraging technology, we ensure that every child has the opportunity to not just learn, but to also succeed, at least to be at a par with their counterparts globally, right? And that's inspired Afrilearn.
That is so cool, Isaac. It's such a founder story. The fact that you see a problem, especially from your upbringing, and have the desire to solve it. I was going to ask actually, why a gaming platform? But you already mentioned that with kids, it's easier to learn as you see because they are more engaged. But I'd still like to ask, what was the inspiration behind, okay, let's make this a gaming platform?
When we started out, it was not a gaming platform. The gaming platform was actually as a result of the demand, the feedback. So when you build a product, there's a difference between building a product and actually building a product that people really want. So when you build a product as a good product manager, what you do is you keep getting feedback and keep iterating incrementally. So, and that's exactly what we did at Afrilearn. So the first version of Afrilearn was not gamified. It was just like the normal LMS platform, right? And over time, we got responses from learners, from parents, from teachers, from schools. And they were like, wow, I mean, they love the platform, but at times these children want something that can engage them beyond just an LMS platform. And that's how we evolved into gamification. And what's gamification? It's basically about, having a journey aligned with the educational experience. That's where they can get rewarded. Everybody likes reward, even adults. Why do we go to work? Because there's a reward for salary at the end of the day. So for children as well, we have leaderboards, within the platform where they can see themselves rising up to the top, right? They can compete with friends. They can even earn while they are learning, right? And with this, we've seen incredible outcomes, in terms of the engagement, the learning experience, the learning outcomes as well has been amazing. So that's the reason why we infused gamification into the product.
That's awesome. So what was competitor analysis looking like for you? Because I'm actually very curious, especially in Africa, a gaming platform that teaches kids between 5 to 17.
So in Africa, really, there was sincerely no one doing what we wanted to do. So we wanted to have a platform where people can not only learn, but they can also get rewarded for their activities on the platform. And if I'm to be, because this is trade secret, the only platform really that we learned a lot from was actually Duolingo. I don't know if you know Duolingo. Duolingo is a language learning app. It's actually the most downloaded educational app in the world, right? And Duolingo was a source of inspiration for us. For instance, learning from Duolingo and of course infusing our own uniqueness to it, we implemented the streak model where you have to come to the platform every day. The day when you don't come to the platform to learn, you lose your streak, right? And we've seen people begin to use this because they don't want to lose their streak. They end up learning every day and getting better and better at different subjects that they used to find very hard, right? And this has actually been incredibly amazing, both for the learners and also for us at Afrilearn, because you see people begin to move from enduring their learning time to actually enjoying and loving learning.
Awesome. That is so cool. Okay, speaking to the demographic you guys are serving, the K-12, right? Statistics say that 30 million children are out of school in sub-Saharan Africa. And we can easily tie it to you saying that when you were growing up, there was a problem with access to education. So speaking of the challenges we face in the education sector in Africa, aside from access, what would you say are the challenges with getting quality education that puts you at par with other developed countries?
There are loads of challenges actually. I think the first one is infrastructure. When it comes to infrastructure, if you've been to the developed world, you know that to take us quite some time, to be able to level up, right? Just saw one happen today, it was probably because of power issues how this interview was a little bit disrupted, right? Now, if that can happen to someone of this caliber, imagine what the situation is for young children, whose parents can't even afford basic things, right? So the first thing really is infrastructural development. That's the first challenge that we face in the education sector in Africa. Of course, the second definitely is the quality of teachers. Right now in Africa, the ratio of teacher to learner is absolutely unacceptable, right? It is one of the reasons why we have a terrible state. The state of education in Africa is actually at an all-time terrible state. Why? Because of the quality of teacher. And aside from quality as well, the teacher to student ratio, if you look at it in the US, in the UK compared to Africa, it's quite terrible, right? Aside from that as well, you also have the challenge of funding. In most developed countries, education is actually largely funded, by the government. In Africa, the funding is completely inadequate, right? And that's why you find that people are trying to solve this problem by themselves. Friends, communities are trying to solve these problems by themselves. So the challenges are actually quite, in number, right? And what we're doing right now is for instance, Afrilearn right now, what we are doing right now is we are trying to solve this problem from the innovation side of view, right? You have people like myself and my co-founder rising up to the challenge. You have other innovation as well, other products, that are coming up. But essentially, education normally should be the responsibility, at least to a large extent, of the government, right? But because the government has, to a large extent, failed its people, that's when you then have these interventions. But that doesn't change the fact that these challenges are still there, So, but all we can hope for is that it gets better and better as we go along. But for us, we have an incredibly strong belief in young Africans, and we won't stop until quality education is truly democratized across the board for everybody.
Awesome, thank you very much. We're actually rooting for you at Afrilearn. You mentioned that funding was one of the challenges Africa is facing when it comes to the education sector. And we can even drill it down to Nigeria as a case study. Speaking of funding, especially for Afrilearn, from my research, I found that you guys got funded in 2022 by UNICEF Innovation Fund. So my question is a two-part question. What is it looking like funding Afrilearn on a day-to-day basis? Have there been support from other organizations aside from the UNICEF? What is revenue generation looking like? And what does it look like funding and keeping Afrilearn afloat on a day-to-day basis?
Interesting one. In Africa right now, education is primarily funded through government allocation, even though it is inadequate, like I said earlier. Right. Then we have international aid from different organizations and nations as well. And then we have the private sector contributions, to some extent. So government allocate a portion of their national budgets to education. In Nigeria, one of the complaints we have is that it's not enough, right? The allocation for education is not enough because no nation can rise beyond the degree of the education of its populace, right? Just like an organization, every organization is as good as the quality of its people. Every nation as well is as good as the quality of its people, and nothing empowers like knowledge. So the government allocates a portion of their budget, but these funds again are not sufficient to meet the growing needs. So at Afrilearn, for us, in terms of what are the sources of funding, Afrilearn actually was started by our personal funds. That's myself and Gabriel, my co-founder. We started with our personal. We saved up some funds and started. For us, really, it was about just solving a problem and moving on. Hopefully, after solving that problem, right? But we're still solving that problem. We're seeing results, incredible results actually. But of course, eventually, after having used our funds to get to some level, we had some supports, like you mentioned, from UNICEF. So 2022, we got selected for the UNICEF Innovation Fund. And with that came funding of $100,000, to help us pretty much develop our products and, of course, introduce AI into our offerings, which we have now on the platform. AI has incredible power, incredible potential to advance education, particularly for personalized learning. And that's exactly what we've done. One of the things that make Afrilearn incredibly effective, actually, the fact that it helps people to learn differently. So in terms of right now, how do we run? Well, right now at the moment, we're making some revenue, thankfully, from our products. So Afrilearn runs an interesting model. We have the freemium model and we have the subscription-based model. So for the freemium model, we offer basic content for free while providing premium features at a cost. So for instance, right now you can access all the class notes, lesson plans on Afrilearn for free, right? You can also access past questions for any examination for free. However, if you want to use the homework help, even that is for free actually for the first 3 tries. Then afterwards, if you want to ask more questions, then you have to upgrade your subscription. So for the subscription base, we provide schools and parents with affordable subscription plans that gives students access to all our resources. So with that, you don't have any limit. You can access everything we have: video lessons, homework help at any time, anywhere, and all other features on the platform. Aside from that as well, we collaborate with NGOs. So we have some collaboration, some partnership with some NGOs where we offer them, their beneficiaries, access to the platform for free, right? And then there's also impact investment, which is where the UNICEF fund came in. And even before UNICEF, we had some support from the Netherlands as well. It's called Orange Corners. So we got selected for Orange Corners. And of course, that also came at a very timely period for us. I think the standout support that we've gotten so far, aside from that, we've practically bootstrapped Afrilearn. And that's because we want to ensure that the DNA of the product stays true to our mission of democratizing access to education, as opposed to bringing in investors at a very early stage, that probably change the mission, the vision, and whatnot. So for now, we are focused bent on solving this problem and solving it excellently, while retaining the vision and the mission of the organization. Yeah.
Awesome. Well done, Isaac, and to your co-founder. I will say for a fact that I've had time to go through your platform and your presence on other social media platforms, and I would say that the excellence shows, and this is not because you're a guest on this show, it shows the quality of what you're doing is actually showing. So well done. Speaking of partnership, I'm curious, has there been any form of approach from any government, especially from the Nigerian government, to show support, or has there been any approach from Afrilearn to any government asking for support? What has that looked like for you guys?
Well, that's an interesting question. In terms of approach from the government, well, I would say yes and no. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, we were able to intervene. So that was actually when we released classnotes.ng. So by the way, Afrilearn also owns classnotes.ng, is our sister site, where we basically have the entire classnote resource library from primary 1 to primary 6, JSS1 to SS3 on the platform for free, absolutely free. And right now, classnotes, I think the last time has reached over 2 million learners. Not just even in Africa, people from the US, from the UK, from India go to that platform. That was when the government announced that some platforms were going to be available for free, right? And we're part of that. But aside from that, we've not really had anything else to do with the government at the moment. And the second phase of the question, which is, have we reached out to the government ourselves as well? No, we haven't. Why? It's very simple. Like I said earlier, right now, our focus is really on building a solid platform, because one of the problems we have in Nigeria as well, even for those who are solving this problem, is that we are not solving them the right way, or we're not solving them excellently enough, in the sense of the user experience, the quality of content. So we want to get it right, and that's why for us, our focus right now is on building an incredibly amazing product, because really nobody doubts proofs when you have a good product. As long as you do your marketing right, you would get your target audience. So that for us has been the focus. But we will be reaching out to governments in the near future. That's definitely a possibility. But for us, for now, our focus is on continuous development and reaching our target audience. And eventually, if that happens along the way, why not?
Fair enough. So speaking of funding, I would like to get into your head on what the early days of Bootstrapping Afrilearn looked like. That's because a lot of the people that are going to be watching this video after are people that are actually starting something or in the process of keeping something floating, right? So just take us through how the early days of Bootstrapping Afrilearn was. What were the sacrifices you had to make? What were the things that had to give eventually for Afrilearn to stay the course?
Well, the early days were quite rough, if I'm being sincere, because the early days, it was more or less like when you look down from a very, very tall building and then you decide to jump off without having any ladder, that will support you. I think that's practically what myself and my co-founder did when we started Afrilearn, because we both had not just good jobs, but well-paying, amazing jobs actually. But when this vision came, I remember sharing it with my co-founder then, and then he bought into it immediately. What we did was to leave our place of work. So, and then it all started in a very small cubicle, which was actually loaned us, and then, but for us really seeing that dream killing effect of poor foundational education on young children across Nigeria and Africa, we just knew that technology is the only the best our best opportunity to solve this problem was through technology permanently, and that's how really we started. In terms of how it was, yeah, we started in a small office, loved every bit of it. It was challenging because as at that time, I was leading the digital team at a large organization, a large non-profit, and Gabriel was its chief executive officer of a thriving PR firm as well. So imagine leaving the comfort of those kind of jobs and then saying you want to go start a startup, right? It was, and we had families as well. But I think that the conviction of what is possible, was actually enough for us. So we decided to leave those jobs, dived into it. And today, when we look back, I think that we made a great decision, the right decision. Have we grown at the rates that we would love? At the initial stage, but right now, the rate at which we are growing is actually quite inspiring, and that's why I keep saying that our focus is on building the best products. Because when you have the best products and you do your marketing right, you would have the best audience. Because for us, on the long term, we don't just want to build an e-learning platform. No, what we want to do is truly democratize access to world-class education for every young child in Africa, across the continent. That's what we want to do. So, and there's no stopping until we get there, really. So that's how it was at the initial stage. And over time, of course, we started with our personal funds. Like I said, we hired our first 2 or 3 staff members, and we started producing content. We had a studio where we brought in teachers. They would teach in front of the cameras. We take those videos. We also hired a couple of animators, right? So once they are done, of course, everything was done in alignment with the curriculum. We worked with the curriculum. We also worked with some of the best teachers across some of the top schools in the country as well, actually, who helped us with the content, the quality control, to ensure that, number one, our content are aligned with the curriculum. Number 2, that they are top quality, excellent, and number 3, of course, that they go through quality assurance before we then deploy them into the platform. And since then, really, we've not looked back. Afrilearn basically is essentially formed of 3 key areas. First is the content department. Then second, we have the technology department, of course, the software developers to ensure that, okay, the mobile app is working fine, it's well built, the user experience is fantastic, and all of that. And then, of course, lastly, we have the marketing, right? So all of these things come together. Of course, we have the animators as well, who are part of the content team. So that's basically how we do it, at Afrilearn. Now we started, and of course, in the future, we see ourselves scaling this effort, scaling the people, the content, the products, and our reach accordingly, and beyond Africa by God's grace.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Isaac. Before we get into the challenges that face or plagues the edtech sector, because I'm very aware that there's a huge gap between education as it is, the traditional mode of education, and then edtech, right? Using technology to enable the spread of education. Before we get into that, I want to ask a personal question. How did you know that this was it? I'm sure you've tried your hands, because I'm an entrepreneur in spirit, right? I know how the minds of entrepreneurs work. You try your hand as this, you try your hand as this. How did you know Afrilearn was it? What was the conviction for you to leave every other thing that's stable at the time to say, okay, let me pursue this particular one?
That's a beautiful question. I think for me, it was very easy. And why? So usually, of course, I'm a Christian, and I do not shy away from that at all, right? And everything I do stems from that. Actually, that's my source. God is my source. How did I know that Afrilearn was it? Very simple. Right from time, even up until now, nothing grips me more than seeing an individual who is living lesser than their potential, than their God-given potential. Nothing grips me like it. Nothing, And when you look at Nigeria, you look at Lagos State, look at Nigeria, look at Africa, you find millions of young people. And the interesting thing is, as human beings, one of the things that makes a leader is not just for you to be able to see a situation or a person for what it currently is or what they currently are, right? But the capacity to see what they can be or what that person could be in the future. Right, and that's what drives me, really. And that's why, of course, one of the reasons why I knew Afrilearn was it. Why? The potential and the possibility of reaching millions and potentially billions with access to quality education, and what that would do for them, for their future, for their children, for their family, for their communities. Nothing else matters really. When that happens, the impact that will create in our world. So for me, of course, first was the conviction, the divine conviction that I had, that this is it. Second was the alignment with my personal purpose, which is empowering people. I'm really all about empowering people. But before Afrilearn, when I was in school, I used to organize easily the largest conference in my school. Then I had my first degree in Lagos State University. So I used to organize a program called Global Change Forum, where I brought people like Adesonya, then if you know him, a couple of those people, Steve Akoni, and so I used to organize the kind of programs. Why? Because I've always been about empowering people, right? So Afrilearn was an opportunity to then do this on a sustainable basis, because then, of course, all I did was organize the program. Of course, it was free, so I had to look to, get funds to do it, either look for 6 sponsorship and whatnot, right? So when you then get an opportunity to pursue a vision where you're not just organizing a program, you're building a platform that will continue to change lives, to affect lives, to influence lives, not just now, but for generations to come, of course. It's basically just clicks, right? And for me, I have literally dedicated my professional life to solving this problem, and of course, a few other problems that God would have me solve. Yeah, so that's how I knew that this was it.
Awesome. Thank you for that perspective. It will actually help someone, and me in particular. Okay, so speaking of partnerships, because keep referring your co-founder because of this conversation, how did you know that this was the right person to go into partnership with? Because no matter how big a vision you have, getting into bed with the wrong person can actually kill it. So how were you sure that this is the person you wanted to build Afrilearn with?
Interesting. Yeah. So for me, I think there's really no one bullet answer to this question. That's the first thing I like to say, because I think it's really also about intuition beyond just giving a motivational response or answer. That's the first thing. It's about intuition and about instruction, about revelation. That's one. Once that one is sorted, that okay, you receive that okay, this person is the right person. You can sense it, you can feel it in your spirit, right? The other things that then matter that must also be ticked in terms of checklists really is number 2 is this person's values, alignment of values essentially. Do you share to a large extent the same values? Because that's only because it's almost actually like marriage. The only difference is that you're not married, because you're working together on the same vision, you are headed towards the same direction, right? And if this person is not seeing the same vision that you're seeing, there's going to be trouble, right? Does that mean that even when you share the same vision with someone, of course, there are still tendencies? So for instance, myself and my co-founder, we've had, it's close to 4 or 5 years now, we've had our own challenges, right? But because we know exactly why we're together, why we're building this, we've surmounted each of those challenges very easily, right? And we're stronger even for those things, for those experiences, those challenges, right? So I think first is the conviction, that yes, this person is right for this, to pursue this thing with me. The second is the alignment of values and vision. Very, 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 very important, really. Values and vision. And then thirdly, does this person complement you? So for instance, one of the reasons why me and Gabriel, I'll be like, if I would do this again, of course, aside from the fact that we have learned some lessons that will have helped us do and made us do certain things differently, I would definitely do this again with Gabriel. Why? Because they are aligned in terms of values, right? I think one of the biggest advantages, that we both have by having ourselves, pursue this together, is the fact that we actually have different strengths. So for instance, Gabriel is incredibly amazing with content, even with products, right? I am incredibly amazing when it comes to marketing, when it comes to storytelling, when it comes to product as well, right? So with that, while it's pushing, from the content side of things and pushing from the operation, strategy, storytelling, marketing side of things, partnerships, right? And this has really worked for us. It has helped us to focus on our strengths while pushing one vision forward together. So I think that those are part of the key elements that must be in place, when considering partnership with anybody or even any organization. Actually, there has to be alignment of values, because if your values are not aligned, why are you even coming together in the first place?
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Isaac. I like the fact that you said you have to not just look at how your skills complement each other, but how you feel inside of you, the conviction you have that this person is the right person for it. So thank you very much for that answer. So moving to challenges your organization faces as an education technology platform, I wanted to speak to those challenges. What has it been like floating an education technology platform for the last 4 years? What challenges have you guys faced? Which ones are surmountable and which ones have seemed like just go along with it?
Well, Edtech companies in Africa face several challenges, not just Afrilearn, including, I think the first thing again I would say is limited internet access. That one is number one. That's like the biggest, challenge, high data costs. And when I say challenge, not just for the company, because of course the company can always pay for data, right? For the people who are accessing the service of the company. Because, we're talking about reaching people who can't afford quality education, meaning that it's not like they are they have the biggest budget in town, right? And that simply means that they also have to be able to access at least the basic internet, right? So the challenges include limited internet access, high data costs, and inadequate funding. So additionally, there is often resistance to adopting new technologies in traditional education systems. So for instance, some schools think that, if we bring Afrilearn on board, they will render us obsolete, not be need for teachers anymore. And I at times just smile like, how you wish people actually knew better, right? Because nothing can be further from the truth. You can never replace a teacher, because technology will never replace a teacher, because the role that a human play in the life of a student or a learner, technology can only supplement it. It cannot replace it completely, right? So aside from that as well, there are the challenges around developing offline capabilities. So right now we're working on features that allow users to access our content offline, so that we can reduce the dependency on continuous internet access, right? And we can help them save a lot of costs. That's also one of the reasons why our product Class Notes is reaching millions of people. Why? Because unlike platforms that are based on video lessons only, with Class Notes, it consumes very little to no internet. Why? And you can access education on our platform without spending so much on data. Aside from that, there's the challenge of affordable pricing, which has to do with offering affordable subscription plans, and the free basic content to ensure these learners are able to access our content. There's also the challenge of partnerships, which has to do with collaborating with schools, like I said, collaborating with government, like you also asked earlier, right? When you have a solution like this in certain climes, the government should even be the one reaching out and say, okay, how can we make this available, accessible, as opposed to you going to the markets and even spending on marketing, to reach your target audience, because this is a solution that can change the reality for many young Africans if they do have access to it, right? And of course, getting NGOs to integrate our platform into their existing educational frameworks, particularly school actually. But we have a lot of schools. People that reach out, the bodies that reach out to us the most are actually schools. We have loads of schools that come into the platform, send us email, we love your platform, we would like to integrate it in our school. And of course, we're able to make that work very seamlessly. Definitely one of the things we would love to see is also governments, state governments, federal government reaching out and seeing how we can work together to actually have our young people have access to quality education that can change the reality for not just the learners, but actually for even our nation. Because when you have an educated citizenry, it has a direct impact on the economy, because people are then empowered with skills to go out there and exchange their skills for value. And when they exchange those skills for value, what happens? The economy gets better, right? And then lastly, continuous improvement, which has to do with, of course, regularly updating our platform based on user feedback, as I mentioned earlier as well, to ensure it's not only stays excellent, but it also meets the needs of students and educators effectively. Now, this is very, very critical for us at Afrilearn, because we've been there before where we built a product that we thought, this is what the users need, right? And when we're done building fantastic products, we got a different reaction. But right now, the way we build is such that anything we take to the market is actually taken to the market because the users have demanded for it. And you can see the radical difference between the two, right? So these are some of the most prevalent challenges that we currently face as an edtech company in Africa.
Awesome. Thank you for that answer. Just to corroborate your point, statistics say that about Africa only has about 43% internet penetration. So I can imagine that also affects your target market. While you were also speaking, I also thought about the fact that you guys could actually partner with network providers, the MTN, the Airtel. Yes, so that could be something you guys could consider in the future.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Awesome. So speaking of impacts, right, because I'm a sustainability consultant, by the time we finish talking about everything, we have to drive it down to impact. What does impact look like for Afrilearn, especially across the kind of people you're reaching, gender distribution, how many students have gotten access to education because of your platform? Just brag to us about the kind of impact that Afrilearn has had so far.
Well, in terms of impact, that's one of the things that actually drive us. I, for one, am driven hugely by impact. And when it comes to impact at Afrilearn, it can be mind-boggling at times. When you see, especially because I have access to our database, I see all the reviews pouring in, day out, and at times it can be quite humbling actually. So first off, the mission is to digitize effective and engaging education that empowers Africa's K-12 learners and educators for success. So in terms of impact, we have reached millions. Like I said earlier, Afrilearn currently has reached over 2.1 million learners across Africa, providing them with access to high quality educational content. That's a milestone and numbers that we're incredibly proud of, right? Especially when we know what this means for these people. Second is improved learning outcomes. So as we speak today, over 80% of Afrilearn users actually achieve improved learning outcomes and increase their test scores by over 100% within the first week of continuous usage, meaning that as a learner, I download the Afrilearn app today and I start using it. I start probably consuming the classroom's content or practicing the WAEC questions because I want to sit for WAEC. If you do that for the next 1 week, when your scores are then compared with your former score, we've seen over 80% increase in their test scores, and that's, for us, is actually amazing. Third thing is, in terms of gender equality, we have seen a steady increase in female users, which reflects our efforts to provide equal educational opportunities for all gender. Those are numbers that we are very proud of, and we also intend to keep working on continuously to ensure that we keep making the products better and the platform better. Of course, when it also comes to the usage engagement metrics, the usage of the platform is increasing on a daily basis. Each time I check our Google console, for instance, I see that's upward tick. It has stayed that way for quite a long time. We also hope that it continues to be that way. Aside from all of those numbers and impacts, based evidence, we've also been recognized by different organizations. So for instance, been awarded the Digital Innovation of the Year by the US Chamber of Commerce, right? We've been awarded one of the top 50 best educational innovations in Africa by the African Union, right? We've also been, of course, supported by UNICEF because of our innovative approach to learning. And for us at Afrilearn, one of the things that make us really unique is the fact that we are not doing this to make money primarily. We are doing this to make impact. How? Because for many edtech companies, or solutions or interventions, the goal definitely is also to make impacts, right? But for us, we see this very differently. And how? We see this differently because we are very big on personalized learning, which also adds to our impact evidence as well. And what do I mean? In Africa, one of the biggest challenges of education in Africa is that we want to educate every single person the same way. So we want to judge the way Isaac learned by the way Agatha learned, and that's not true. That's not going to be effective. Why? Because children learn differently. Some children learn best by reading class notes, for instance. That's how they learn best, no matter what you do. Now, some learn best by watching videos. I, for one, am a visual learner, right? There are 4 kinds of learning styles, So when you know that there are 4 kinds of learning styles, and then we have a school system only styles that support one style out of the 4, how do you want the children whose learning styles belong to the other 3 to perform? That's not fair on them. So children learn differently. Some children learn best by reading class notes. Some learn best by watching videos. Some learn best by practicing problems. And some learn best by social collaboration. So what we've done at Afrilearn is Afrilearn has been designed to give every child the freedom to learn using the unique method that works best for them. And that's the reason why we are able to command those impacts that I've stated earlier. And like I said again, we're just getting started, and it only gets better for us.
Awesome. Well done to you and your partner on this tech. What else would you be doing?
If I wasn't involved in Edtech, what else would I be doing? Well, I think there are 2 things I'll be doing if I wasn't involved in Edtech. I think 1, I would probably be a lecturer. I love impacting knowledge, actually. I love impacting knowledge. Or I would be in the real estate sector, because I love financial freedom for people, right? I'll be there not just to make money, but to actually empower people to, to achieve freedom, leveraging the possibilities that real estate brings. So those 2, of course, and that's in the sector that I'm still going to dive into, by the way, I haven't gotten this to a sustainable level. Yeah. So I think that those are 2 things: lecturing or, doing real estate, to empower people. Yeah.
Awesome. That actually does make sense. Well done. Hopefully we can also see you making huge strides in those sectors as well. I was speaking to someone yesterday because we had a major national grid failure again for the 7th time in Nigeria. And I was speaking to her about how can't wait, although the government has like a huge role in making sure that every citizen has a good quality of life, can't sit down and wait for them to solve all the problems. Someone has to stand up and say, okay, education sucks in Nigeria, let me improve it. Electricity sucks in Nigeria, let me improve it. Every sector, we need people to stand up and say, this is something I can solve, let me get my hands dirty. So it's just beyond this conversation now. It is beyond amazing that you have found a problem and you're solving it. That means that those 2.1 million people that are coming on your platform and learning have a better chance at a future because of you. Aside from profits, these are all testaments of the faith to build something from scratch and keep sustaining it. So these are people you may never meet in life, but their fortune has been improved because you decided to take a leap to solve the problem. So well done to you and your partner. Well done. Kudos to you guys. So final question that I have for you before we ask you how we can reach you and find you. What are the 3-year plans, the 5-year plans for Afrilearn? What is in the pipeline for you guys?
Well, for us at Afrilearn, unique goal right now really is to reach 100 million students in Africa within the next 5 years. Yeah, that's our goal. And a goal that is very dear to our hearts. It's a goal we believe we can reach. Right now, we have, in my opinion, what I consider as the best learning platform in Nigeria at the moment. Right? If you are a secondary school learner and you download the Afrilearn app, nobody needs to tell you that. You will see for yourself. Why? Because Afrilearn is an incredibly empathetic platform in the sense that it has taken into account the data costs, in Nigeria, which is why we have class notes, right? We've got class notes, we've got video lessons, we've got exam practice, but not just exam practice that feels like a game and is simulated to give you the same experience you would have in the WAEC exam hall when you're having your examination, and you can practice until you've scored your desired score on the app. If you get a particular score on the app, you're 99, you have a 99% assurance that that's exactly what you score in the actual examination. So for us, having that kind of product, what we're currently doing right now is to continuously take feedback and keep making the product better, increasing our content library, right, and keep reaching more people in terms of marketing. Those are the 3 focus areas for us right now, right? In terms of long-term vision, of course, we want to reach 100 million learners across Africa with quality education. Why? Because when that happens, Africa will be a lot better for it. Africa will be transformed for it. Because we talk about government, politicians, no politician will change a nation. The quality of every nation is completely dependent on the quality of its citizenry. right? So there's that's our reach. We want to reach 100 million people in the next 5 years. Second, long-term vision for us really is to develop more advanced AI-driven features to personalize learning experiences, right? This is already, available on the app, but of course we want to continuously make it better, make it more advanced, so that we can also leverage AI, to deliver impacts across the board. Third is our diverse content. We want to offer more wide range of content on the platform, and of course we also want to increase the number of content, number of video lessons, number of exercises that we have on the platform. Of course, that's a daily thing for us that we do anyways, but that will continually increase. As a matter of fact, we also want to be able to, because we've seen the impact of class notes, right? Because even teachers use class notes because it saves time for them. Before any teacher gets into a classroom to teach, they have to do what they call lesson plan, right? But on Afrilearn, we have all of those ready-made in the app. So what teachers also do, they download the app and they use our class notes to deliver lessons, because it helps them to save time, a lot of stress, so they can focus on teaching and mentoring, those children. Then fourthly, we would also be looking at driving strong partnerships, collaborating with the government, educational institutions, the telcos as well, really, to subsidize data costs for our learners, right? And then lastly, we also want to look into sustainable impacts, to continuously measure and improve the impacts, of our product, to ensure that we are making a meaningful difference in the lives of African learners. So those are really our long-term goals, in terms of the reach and in terms of product development, marketing, and partnerships.
Also, that's an ambitious goal, 100 million. So in the next years, we should be able to have you back on this platform telling us that we've been able to reach our 100 million goal. The good thing about the internet is that this is going to be there for you to reference in the future. So we're actually rooting for you and your partner. We're rooting for Afrilearn. We can't wait to see the amazing things you guys will be doing in the future. Just so people can keep up with you, where can they find you? Anyone that says, okay, I like what Isaac is doing, I like how his head functions, how can I follow you? How can I find you on social media?
Well, I think the first thing to follow our work, just go to myafrilearn.com. That's where you find it. And if you also Google My Afrilearn, you'll find the websites right there. Our mobile app is available on Google Play Store, available on the App Store. Afrilearn has a wealth of resources for students, teachers, parents, schools. And then for me personally, of course, my handle, I think it's the same thing across board. It's just the Isaac Africa. That's TheIsaac Africa, on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube as well, right? So that's basically how to reach. And of course, if you want to reach out directly, my official email is isaac@myafrilearn.com. Want to reach out regarding partnerships, possible insights, and whatever it is. We are definitely open to those things. So bring it on. We'll be looking forward to working with you and looking forward to welcoming you on our platform. The future of Africa is in our hands. Africa is projected to grow at an incredible rate, within the next couple of years. As a matter of fact, I love to say that Africa is the future of the world, right? Because of our population, because of our hearts, because of our soul, so the world would rely on us, will come to our dwelling, for a lot of things, and we have to be ready for this. And one of the things that makes us ready really is our workforce, the quality of our workforce, the quality of education that we make available for our people. And that's the major reason why we are doing this, right? So we look forward to partnering with you, welcoming you on board, and let's make impacts together. Let's democratize world-class education for young Africans anywhere. It is very possible. And thank you.
God, I'm so sold. That's a good closing statement. Thank you so much, Isaac. It's been a super delight having you on here, against all odds, by the way. So thank you for thank you for the flexibility as well, being willing to make sure this happens.
Thank you, Agatha. Beautiful interview and beautiful platform as well. Well done.
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in to Sustainability Matters. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget, new videos premiere on our YouTube channel every Wednesday. Follow us across our social media pages to stay updated on the great content we have for you. Until next time, stay green and stay inspired.